Hello everyone, and welcome back to Acupuncture is My Life. Now, in this episode, I want to complete the functions of the internal organs so that we can move on to other aspects of how an acupuncturist diagnoses patients, as well as different types of diseases and disorders with regard to how they're treated by an acupuncturist. But the interesting part about today's discussion is I'm not going to focus on just one particular yin organ or yang organ. I want to discuss the functions of the 6 extraordinary yang organs. And I know many of you are raising your eyebrows like 6 extraordinary yang organs. Are they different? Now you see, when it comes to the Western concept of the internal organs, some of these, what an acupuncturist would consider a yang organ, is not actually considered an organ at all when it comes to, again, the Western concept of the internal organs. Now, beside the fact that regular yin and yang that regular yin and yang organs are, as I previously stated, that's lung, spleen, heart, kidney, pericardium, and liver. Those are your 6 yin, and then your 6 yang would be large intestine, stomach, small intestine, bladder, sanjiao, and gallbladder. Now, here's what's cool, right? The gallbladder is considered one of the 6 extraordinary yang organs, but I'll get into that later on in this discussion. I just want to emphasize that there are also 6 extraordinary yang organs which actually complete acupuncture physiology. Okay? Now, they're called extraordinary yang organs because in some ways they function as if they're a yin organ, that being the storing of essence or yin essence, and it doesn't excrete this essence. It doesn't excrete at all. But then it has the shape of a yang organ, that being hollow. So take a second and let that sink in. But what also accompanies the functions of the extraordinary yang organs is the 4 C's. But the 4 C's I'll discuss later on down the line in future episodes. You see, the 6 extraordinary yang organs tend to store some type of refined essence, such as, let's say, bile, which is by the gallbladder, or blood, or marrow. And they're functionally related, whether it be indirect or direct, to the kidneys. And the kidneys, and I've discussed this in videos on the Acupuncture is My Life channel on YouTube, as well as past episodes on the functions of the kidneys. The kidneys are very powerful. It's responsible for your pre-heaven chi, all chi derived, extracted from your parents, but all and the foods that you've ingested while in the womb. It's responsible for all post-heaven or pre-heaven chi, while you're still in the womb. And this is how it becomes empowered to govern all yin energies and yang energies of the body after birth. the kidneys control these types of energies. So, I mean, it's just awesome as to how these extraordinary yang organs are related to the kidneys. And first I want to discuss the uterus as one of the 6 extraordinary yang organs. But before discussing the functions of the uterus, I need you to momentarily attempt to block your understanding of the Western concept of the internal organs completely. Okay? Now, we've been through this a few times. But just to reiterate, let me explain again what I mean by the functions of the 6 extraordinary yang organs. See, they're extraordinary because they function like a yin organ, that being the storing of essence and it doesn't discharge. But then they're shaped like a yang organ, which is usually hollow and constantly fills and continually discharges. Now, the uterus, being the first of the 6 extraordinary yang organs, is the most important of them all. Please remember that. Because the uterus actually functions both as a yin organ as well as a yang organ. The way in which it functions as a yin organ is that it stores both blood and the fetus during pregnancy. And the way in which it functions as a yang organ is that it discharges blood during menstruation, as well as a newborn during childbirth. Now, the 2 main functions of the uterus are that it regulates menstruation and it houses the fetus during childbirth. Now, when it comes to regulating menstruation, the uterus heavily relies on both the kidneys because of what it utilizes to form menstrual blood, and the liver, because liver qi is responsible for the movement of blood during menstruation. Now, by now, you guys should be able to begin making connections between yin and yang here. And that's why I saved the discussion on the functions of the 6 extraordinary yang organs until the end. Yin is nurturing, yang is active. Okay, and active, constantly discharging. Nurturing is relative to storing. Now, when it comes to housing the fetus with regard to the uterus during pregnancy, the uterus houses as well as it nourishes the fetus during pregnancy with the nourishment of kidney essence and blood. Now, this next extraordinary yang organ, and in Western physiology, or just the Western concept of internal organs, this isn't considered an internal organ, but to an acupuncturist, it is. And that's the bones. And I know many of you are like, what is he talking about? Before I even jump into it, think about what internal organs do, their importance, their function, and then take a second and think about the bones and how it stores minerals such as calcium and so forth and so on. Okay, it functions. In a Western sense, to some extent, it functions like an internal organ. You see, to an acupuncturist, the bones are not only seen as the structural frame of the body, the bones also serve as a cavity which holds marrow, and it has a strong relationship to the kidneys. But here's something that's going to surprise you. The bones, and I've said this already, functions as an internal organ because without them, can you live? Can you survive? So when an acupuncturist looks to treat any disorders of a person's bones, we usually focus on the kidneys to affect the bones. Let's say, for instance, when a person suffers a bone fracture, I tend to treat the kidneys in order to speed up the healing process. I've had patients come into the Acupuncture is My Life clinic here in New York. Broken bones. I treat athletes as well. And the main meridian, the main internal organ that I focus on is the kidneys, along with others, because everyone's different. Supporting meridians or internal organs with regard to one individual is not the same, or wouldn't be the same in a treatment protocol as to another. This is what makes acupuncture so awesome. Everyone's constitution is different. We're born with different types of deficiencies and excess patterns. So no one is alike. So it's never a one-size-fits-all situation. What may support the kidneys in expediting the healing process of the bones in one patient may not support in another. The liver, because it's part of the lower jiao and resides in the same jiao as the kidneys, may help the kidneys in speeding up the healing process. And in some people, the heart and kidney have a strong relationship. That's your yin and yang. But we'll get into that in future episodes. Okay. But again, I tend to treat the kidneys in order to speed up the healing process with regard to fractures, bone fractures, or broken bones. You see, another reason the bones are considered an extraordinary yang organ is because they're responsible for storing marrow. So when there's a deficiency of bone marrow or kidney essence, the bones will lack nourishment and a person will lose their ability to walk or even stand up or stand for an extended period of time. You see, deficiency of kidney essence is what tends to cause osteoporosis in elderly people. That's why during menopause, I look to tonify the kidneys in women to slow down the onset of osteoporosis. And it's not even just bone fracture, a broken bone, osteoporosis, any type of potential bone disorder, bone marrow disorder. An acupuncturist, the main organ of focus can be or would be the kidneys. So please remember that. So if you ever suffer a bone fracture or you feel bone mineralization from a Western sense is deficient and you're afraid of brittle bones as you age, see an acupuncturist. I say this over and over. Along with seeing your physician on an annual or even a semi-annual basis, make regular wellness visits throughout the year a part of your schedule, because you want to remove that burden of poor health from your shoulders. Be a lot of weight off your shoulders seeing an acupuncturist for regular wellness visits. Now, here's going to be another surprise for you. Another extraordinary yang organ are blood vessels. Again, please think about what you understand internal organs to do from a Western perspective, and then think about bones and blood vessels and their importance. Because to an acupuncturist, blood vessels have two main functions. They hold blood and it serves as the apparatus for the circulation of chi and blood. And 2, blood vessels also transport the refined food essences. Now, if you've been listening to my past episodes, as well as watching the Acupuncture is My Life YouTube channel, where are the refined food essences derived from? You got it. Spleen and stomach. I speak of this all the time. So blood vessels transport refined food essences as well as chi and blood throughout the body. Now, when it comes to holding blood and serving as the apparatus for which functions as a reservoir for its circulation, the blood vessels receive and hold in nutritive chi that has been extracted, here we go guys, by the spleen as essence from the foods in which we eat, readily serving as a source for which chi and blood can circulate inside of. Now, when it comes to transporting refined food essences extracted by the spleen, along with chi and blood throughout the body, the blood vessels facilitate the function of all bodily tissues being nourished by chi and blood, as well as the essences extracted from food. Those are the 2 main functions of the blood vessels to an acupuncturist, and an acupuncturist considers, just like bones, just like the uterus, we consider blood vessels to be an extraordinary yang organ. Because think about it, the yin and yang functions. It holds blood, which is yin, but blood vessels are hollow, which is the shape of a yang organ. This is what makes these 6 yang organs to be considered extraordinary. Now, the next extraordinary yang organ to an acupuncturist, I'm going to surprise you again, it's marrow. Yep, marrow. Now, the concept of marrow to an acupuncturist must not be confused with bone marrow, as is understood in Western medicine. You see, kidney essence, it serves as the origin of marrow, as it is an important substance in our brain, as well as our spinal cord and even our bones, forming bone marrow. Along with the kidneys, the stomach and spleen are also responsible for the production of marrow. To an acupuncturist, marrow has 3 functions. It's responsible for filling our bones within our bodies, of course. It plays a part in the production of blood, as well as it nourishes the brain. Can you sort of see how an acupuncturist may consider marrow as an internal organ? It has functions that are required for our sustenance to remain alive. And now when it comes to filling up the bones as a form of essence, it fills our bones for purposes of nourishment. As far as, let's say, playing a part in the production of blood, because kidney essence serves as the origin of marrow, as well as the kidney meridian being responsible for nourishing blood, this is how marrow plays a part in the production of blood. And when it comes to nourishing the brain, marrow as a form of essence fills up both the spinal cord and the brain to provide it with the nutrients it requires to function. And those are basically the functions of marrow as understood by an acupuncturist. And I need you guys, as I said in the past, with regard to the functions of the 12 internal organs, lock in the functions of the 6 extraordinary yang organs as well, because it's all going to connect. When going deep into discussions on diseases and disorders, it'll all come together. Now, another extraordinary yang organ is the brain. Now, when it comes to the functions of the brain to an acupuncturist, the brain has 2 main functions. Now, keep in mind, you guys, I hope you still have your understanding of the Western concept of the internal organs completely blocked. All right? Now, to an acupuncturist, the brain has 2 main functions. The first is that it controls intelligence, and the second, it's considered the sea of marrow and controls sight, hearing, smell, taste, and speech. Now, when it comes to controlling intelligence, the brain is seen as the palace of a person's original Shen, which is a place where intelligence, memory, thinking, and consciousness reside. Now, for those that have viewed the video on the Acupuncture is My Life YouTube channel on the functions of the heart, you'll notice that a lot of these functions overlap. Now, when it comes to the brain as the sea of marrow, sight, hearing, smell, taste, and speech all depend on the brain. So there really isn't that much of a difference than that of its functions in Western medicine. Now, I had stated earlier in this episode that the gallbladder is considered one of the 6 extraordinary yang organs. This tiny little organ. I know many of you are like, gallbladder just stores bile, that's it. No, not to an acupuncturist. You see, the gallbladder is considered an extraordinary yang organ because, even similar to what I've stated earlier, unlike other yang organs, this yang organ in particular stores essence in the form of bile. And it's considered a pure fluid. But the more bigger significance here when it comes to considering the gallbladder as an extraordinary yang organ is that is from a psychological perspective. First and foremost, the gallbladder differs. It's different from other yang organs in the fact that it's the only yang organ that can store a pure substance. And it has no direct dealings with food or even the fluids we drink or even our waste product. Okay? You see, from a psychological perspective, the gallbladder affects our ability in making decisions, as well as our ability to act on those decisions in which we make. Understand there's a difference. You know, we can make decisions, oh, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. But then you end up doing it. An acupuncturist would understand that there's some level of deficiency with the gallbladder in such a case. But to sit back and say, hey, I'm not going to do this, and don't do it. from a yin and yang perspective, there's not much in the way of disharmony when it comes to the gallbladder relative to its psychological attributes. Okay? Now, from a psychological perspective, the gallbladder has strong ties to both the liver and the heart. Now, when I say liver and heart, because its relationship psychologically to the liver and heart presents in our level of creativity, inspiration, plans, aims, life's dreams, sense of direction, and purpose. With the gallbladder not being tied to the liver or vice versa, or tied to the heart or vice versa, there wouldn't be that sense of inspiration and creativity. Different goals in life, setting goals and life's dreams, direction and purpose. So when we lose, and put it to you this way, when an acupuncturist is treating patients with certain psychological disorders, and I know it's surprising many of you that are listening right now because, and this is why I say over and over, see a local acupuncturist or contact Acupuncture My Life, because you can benefit from acupuncture in so many ways. Many individuals are stuck on, oh, it just treats pain and that's it. No. Many diseases, whether it's autoimmune or chronic, even cancer, adjunct therapy to chemo. I mean, acupuncture does so much, but I don't want to really get off track here. See, when an acupuncturist is treating a patient suffering from some type of psychological disorder, and notice that they lack aim, they lack a sense of purpose, a sense of direction, inspiration, they're depressed. An acupuncturist would know that there is some type of disharmony between the relationship of maybe liver and gallbladder or heart and gallbladder, and would understand that they would have to reestablish, reinvigorate that relationship. And there are points on the gallbladder, liver, heart meridian, as well as others. I can't speak in absolute terms because, like I said, everyone's constitution is different, and you'd need to be assessed by an acupuncturist. But to reestablish harmony between the liver, gallbladder, and heart would be of utmost importance. And I'm going to be doing episodes in the future discussing psychological disorders and how someone may benefit from acupuncture with regard to these disorders. But keep in mind, as I say over and over, you have your annual visits with your physician. And in between that, you run into problems from a health perspective. And then you're running back to your doctor. This is wrong, that's wrong, this is getting on my nerves. I'm tired of running back and forth to the doctor for this, that, and the other. This is getting annoying. I'm getting too old for this. Well, guess what? If you were seeing an acupuncturist periodically for wellness visits, even on a seasonal basis, try it and watch how much that stops. Because I tell you over and over, you must make acupuncture a part of your life. Because acupuncture is my life. What's yours?